When Wiggily was on Cloud9, our relationship was more like he was looking up to me, and I didn't really learn too much from him because he was kind of a rookie back then.
I definitely learned a lot from watching Sven. Sven is definitely one of the better junglers. The split again, he's always been at the top.
Svenskeren has had a crazy summer split.
I think Svenskeren is an MVP level candidate.
It definitely would feel really good to get a win against C9. Playing against him is always he's kind of had my number for a while. I feel like I don't really win against him ever.
Ball for Wiggily. Towards PUE. They got a lot of damage here. They're going to find not quite the stun. The shot pulls it back in. So Svenskeren gets the kill all the same.
Wiggly's still in this stage where he's trying to prove himself as a top jungler, and I think he is.
Wiggily was on fire, yes, and he was always 8, 9, or 10. Suddenly now he is just an absolute stud in the jungle.
Every game right now for us is important, especially when we play the top teams, right? I definitely like to get the win against C9. That's definitely my favorite team to beat.
Don't really see myself losing to Wiggily. I think the only way I would lose is if I spill something on my keyboard breaks. We don't have a spare one. Maybe it slips on my mouse too.
Well, Svenskeren is definitely confident in his performance in this upcoming match.
I will say, I do remember him spilling a lot of stuff on his keyboard. He does that
time.
very frequently.
Yeah, it's actually abnormally
It's
common.
very frequent.
But hey, if he's saying that's the only way he's
That's
gonna lose to
confidence,
Wiggily,
man.
that's saying he's got a lot of faith in both himself and his team to prevail over CLG. Remember the last time they played earlier this split, it was a Cloud9 win, and you
Absolutely.
know CLG are looking for some revenge.
Yeah, that was the final game of the first round robin, so not that long ago, and that's what ended up bringing them even in the standings.
Well, now we're about to hop into Champ Select, see how they want to go about playing this one. Last time around, we saw Svenskeren on that Sejuani. One of those clips that we got to see in that opening package there was actually from that game, charging into Wiggily there, making the plays happen for his team. But here today, we've got CLG with Ruin, Wiggily, PowerOfEvil, Stixxay, and Biofrost, coached by Weldon and Irene on the blue side.
Yeah, yesterday they finally picked up their 8th win in a split for the first time in 2 years. On the other side, though, is Cloud9 with Licorice back in the top lane, coming back from some wrist issues. Svenskeren in the jungle, Nisqy in mid lane, and Sneaky and Zeyzal in the bot lane with Reaper and Rapid Star coaching them up.
Yeah, both of these teams coming off of wins from yesterday, and both of them very much in the conversation for playoff.
Yeah, and beyond that, Cloud9 and CLG are in the running for a top 2 finish and a playoff bye. Both of them are trying to be that second team below Team Liquid, and C9 are in the second place spot right now, but they're only 1 win ahead of CLG and TSM, so a win here not only differentiates themselves from CLG, it also puts some separation between them and TSM.
And catching up to Team Liquid's always a great thing to be doing as well. A familiar story for Cloud9, chasing the top, distancing yourself from the pack, being one of those standout teams, but for CLG, man, they are getting back into form for the first time since 2016.
And it's okay to be optimistic as a CLG fan.
Not too much faith now.
Yeah, I think it's okay to be optimistic as a CLG fan, because the win yesterday finally lifted that 7-11 curse where they had always finished splits 7-11. And they do face a tough opponent today in C9, but they have a pretty clear runway for the rest of the split. And if you saw Dash's visit to the CLG facility in Countdown today, we know the team's taking a closer look at flex picks, hopefully this easier schedule after C9, or maybe this game itself would be a time for them to bring those out and kind of show this next evolution of CLG.
I mean, we've seen in the past that one way to take down an opponent that people are predicting to have an edge over you is to really throw a curveball at them. Maybe CLG's got something up their sleeve. We've seen them try to play more creative compositions already this split. Maybe they'll pull it out here again against Cloud9. Taking a look at the bans, already an unusual one coming out from CLG. This must be some knowledge that they have from scrims, because Yasuo first ban is not a common occurrence.
Not very common. It is something that Nisqy has played twice, so it's more likely to be a C9 pick. I really want to see C9 either banning Sejuani or picking it early, because I personally think, especially the last time they played against him, the Sejuani enables so many of the things that C9 wants to do in solo lanes, which is pick around them, snowball through them with skirmishers, and most of those are melee champions. So there we go, CLG. Nice ban on the Sejuani.
Sejuani banned out along with Yasuo and Qiyana, 2 high-damage AD champions banned out by CLG. Cloud9 putting in all the work, getting rid of the enchanters. Yuumi and Karma very seldom see the light of day here in North America. Jarvan's also banned away, so 2 of those S-tier jungle picks out once again. We'll see if somebody wants to go for that early Sylas.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the next layer of jungle picks. I wonder if either one of these teams wants to really accelerate the game, which would be what you'd see if someone picked an Olaf, even though that hasn't picked up much presence in NA yet. Neither one of these junglers have played it either, but the Tahm Kench speaks to the opposite of the game acceleration I was just talking about, and that'll be it for Biofrost.
We'll see if Biofrost can utilize this champion properly, get a lot done with the Abyssal Voyages, make those collapses happen. His best performances so far this split, at least in my opinion, have been on the mage supports. So Tahm Kench not quite fitting that bill, but CLG must have some sort of a plan here for it. They'll be going up against Braum there in the bottom lane, and Cloud9 also contemplating that Sylas jungle.
Yeah, I am disappointed in the Tahm Kench first pick by CLG, although it's not the first Tahm Kench first pick we've seen today.
Yeah, we've had one game and one Tahm Kench.
Yeah, I feel like the teams are seeing a lot of success with it in scrims. I would imagine they actually see it as having a lot of kill threat early on in the game. That's not traditionally why you pick Tahm Kench, but I will say with all the changes that have been done to him, he does have a lot of 2v2 kill pressure in the games right now because Biofrost is 0-2 on it this split. As you mentioned, so much better on those range supports or lane bullies, and it also enables Braum to play, or Licorice, sorry. It enables Zeyzal to play Braum, and I feel like he is also much more comfortable on melee supports.
All right.
Here we go. That's why they picked Tahm Kench.
I love the contrast in the audience reaction between an MVP candidate jungler locking in something you can display a lot of skill on, like Lee Sin, and an AD carry locking in Sona. The highs versus the lows are a pretty interesting thing to observe, but we will see Lee for Cloud9. CLG are picking up the Sona to go with Tahm Kench bottom, and they'll also grab Jayce as a flex pick there for the solo lane.
Yeah, this will be Stixxay's first ride on the Sona train. I will say, they're coming into the train pretty late. Most other
they left
regions,
the station. They're chasing after.
Most other regions have dropped Sona as a pick on 9/13. They haven't even necessarily prioritized it to nearly the same rate as the LCS has. LCS pick ban presence for Sona this split is around 80% compared to the LPL, which is around 20, and the global presence, which is around 50 or so. On this patch, it's picked in maybe 20% of global games, so definitely something that CLG has probably been practicing when they talked about trying to pull new strategies and new stuff. This definitely fits that criteria. I personally think there's still a lot of potential in the Sona Tahm Kench, even if it's been nerfed.
We'll see how they play it here today. They'll be going up against the Braum and the Sivir from Cloud9, and we know from what we've seen of Sivir and just what the champion does in general, I hope Sona and Tahm Kench like the view underneath their turret. I hope it's nice and shady. I hope it smells wonderful, because they are not going to get more than 3 feet away from it throughout the entirety of this lane.
Which will be fine if they don't die. Just getting that gold, getting the harass out from the spell thieves, getting the CS onto Tahm Kench. I have a window here while they're doing the second phase of bans. I want to give you my philosophy on these bottom lanes.
All right, philosophize me.
Do not think it should be exclusive to Sona Tahm Kench. We've seen a few teams like Fnatic did it with a Karma. I think it basically means pick something that can start with spell thieves that does well with high income. And then pick something that does well with medium income, because that's what happens in these lanes. The Targon's user gets about 1,000 to 2,000 more gold than a normal melee support, which is why I think Taric works so well with it. Right. And then the reason Sona works so well with it is because if you look at ARAM win rates, or whenever you have these wacky game modes, Sona's always like a 65% win rate, because for some reason this champion scales bananas. It just goes off the charts in late game. So there are other champions that fit that bill. I do think Karma scales well with gold. I do think other supports like Jarvan scale well with medium income. So as the year progresses, I do hope to see a few other neat things. We saw FlyQuest actually play the Jarvan Sona or something, and it worked really well.
Let's see how they want to go about the last half of the draft here. It's Vladimir locked in for the side of Cloud9 as solo lane bans come across from both teams. Veigar, Akali, Victor, and Azir all banned out. Counter Logic Gaming continued to bait the audience here with the Teemo Hover. Highly doubt that one's ever going to see the light of day, and instead, we're going towards the Corki.
Let's do it. That's a solo lane, mid lane Corki. The Hecarim fits with all the speed. If they lock that in, that's kind of like the Exodia version of this composition when people put it together. That's also before the Sona E was nerfed to not scale as well with AP. I would think they'll go with Hecarim, but you can always do something else.
Nope, never mind. We're getting something better.
What are you doing? How are you controlling these Skarner picks, Captain
I'm
Cloud?
phoning them in.
Oh my goodness.
We're phoning them in. Skarner picked up for the side of CLG, and if there's anything a champion that can only run fast likes, it's another champion that makes you run faster. Sona supporting Skarner always feels good. Her extra shields also protect your shield to make it so it doesn't get broken, which makes you run even faster. So we'll see if he can get to the back line, because Skarner's job... Oh,
Malphite.
Okay.
Wow. Malphite also has, I think, somewhat considerable buffs coming in patch 9.14, but occasionally you would see this as a Jayce counter pick towards the end of last year in the LCK. That was like a Trinity Force Malphite who max Q ran up to Jayce and smacked him really hard. We'll see what Licorice can pull out here. You do lose the early laning phase, but at level 6, you have a lot of kill threat. I mean, we're talking about new picks. Counter Logic Gaming pulls out what other teams have been doing with the Sona bot lane for the first time, and then C9's like, we already ready for this. Get ready for Malphite and Jayce.
Cloud9 creativity. Remember, Cloud9 has been known to pull out these new counters before as well. Back when Aatrox was smashing people last year and everybody was wondering, well, how do we deal with Aatrox in the top lane? It was Licorice who ran him down with the gallop of Hecarim top. So I want to see if Malphite is the answer to the Jayce here. The one thing Cloud9 does have to be respectful of, a lot of AP threat on the side of CLG. Corki, 80% magic damage. Sona, all magic damage. The only person that armor stacking is really going to hit heavy against is that Jayce. But man, I'm excited to see the big rock back in top side.
Yeah, it seems to me like almost exclusively laning phase kind of mid-game counter, and then also hard initiation against the Sona Tahm Kench. Because if you try and win a war of attrition against a Sona, you will lose it.
To the person in the audience with the "It is my birthday" sign in the style of The Office, happy birthday to you. We're glad you decided to spend your birthday out here watching what I hope is an absolutely fantastic match between CLG and Cloud9. We are on to the Rift. Let's see what they do.
Absolutely. We have the Kleptomancy start from Stixxay. Sometimes you see the Airy on the Sona, but this kind of just confirms that they are expecting to get pushed into the turret early. So that'll kind of raise the question of where does Svenskeren go with his early pathing? They already have a Braum. Most teams with a Braum will actually look to do some type of early invade, but invading into a Tahm Kench is pretty tricky.
Yeah, you don't want to allow him to get on those stacks of an acquired taste, potentially get himself towards a stun. Taking a look at what we're seeing here in terms of summoner spells to see if maybe we get any sort of a hint as to what people are going to be doing. Conqueror on Lee Sin, so a little bit less explosive in terms of the ganking power, but better in extended trades. Summoner spellbook for both supports, so be expecting some extra teleports as this game moves on. And speaking of TPs, it's 3 on the side of CLG and 2 for the side of Cloud9.
Yeah, the big thing here is the Ignite on Nisqy's Vladimir right there. It's mainly targeted at this Sona over on the other side, and specifically about how you need to play team fights in the mid and late game. You have to end them quickly. So it's going to be Malphite flying in with a Vladimir ultimate while probably 2 people Ignite, knowing we have the spellbook on Zeyzal.
And also, Nisqy has gone with the phase rush on Vladimir. This is the scaling Vladimir keystone that allows you to be an absolute nightmare in the team fights. When you couple that with the Nimbus cloak of the subset of runes, it makes it so he's just incredibly fast and cannot be peeled away except by being killed from the back line. Very, very effective here, but it does mean the early trades will miss out on something like an electrocute. So CLG going to see what we can do here with this Skarner in the bottom side as PowerOfEvil and Nisqy trade back and forth here early on. Remember, Vladimir gonna need some time to scale up before he really becomes a threat here in mid.
Yeah, and we get to see the electrocute Corki once again. We saw this yesterday as well, more for short trades, less for lane sustain. You're basically picking between the fleet footwork and the electrocute, but PoE kind of riding the new electrocute Corki train.
PoE's a guy who's never afraid to experiment with builds, as we've learned from seeing some of his creative solutions to modern problems in the past. But Cloud9 are doing exactly as we expected, pushing up here into the Sona Tahm Kench. Wiggily will continue farming from bot side to top side, doing a full clear of all these camps. You can see Svenskeren doing the same thing on Lee Sin. Yeah, see if Svenskeren can get some of these early ganks off on a champion that's just known for it.
Look at the time difference, though, as far as the junglers are concerned. You already have the Skarner on his 5th camp.
Clears very fast.
1, 2, 3, 4 is where Svenskeren is right now. So by no means does Lee Sin keep up in clear speed with the Skarner. Svenskeren is going to have to get a little bit of work done if he doesn't want to get outpaced early here.
I know a lot of people don't know this, but Skarner Spires give you so much mana regeneration, you cannot run out of mana while you're on top of the Spire. You have nothing actually restricting your cooldowns. You might as well be a resourceless champion while you are on top of those. So it's very easy to just spam out those spells willy-nilly and make sure that you're clearing as fast as humanly possible. Svenskeren now picking up that second buff. Wiggily already has his, has cleared through the entire jungle, grabbing the top side Scuttle Crab, and we'll see where he goes from here. Mid lane's pushed up.
Yeah, and speaking of Skarner, I haven't gotten to speak with you about Skarner for a while. One of the earlier changes that I consulted on when I was on the balance team was whether or not you can safely make Skarner's Spires bigger to reach the crux.
I remember talking with you about this.
Yeah, because it enables the Skarner to full clear very quickly, which in the past has been very powerful in pro, not so much with the power farming. But the big thing that I was concerned about as a potential reason not to do it would be the power of Emax Skarner who hard farms. Most Skarners in solo queue do Qmax, but Emax is like a 4% higher win rate. That's what Wiggily is doing here with the hard farm. So I think this version of Skarner is actually underrated in terms of power. Speaking of power,
Licorice going in. One more hit could be the solo kill. Got a flash forward into the seismic shard. First blood, Malphite.
How do you do that?
Rock solid.
Yes, and how do you let that happen as a Jayce? It really just shows that he probably hasn't played against many Malphite tops, which isn't that surprising in pro, but it is the Qmax, as we expected. He does have the Doran's Ring for early power, and they're right back at it. There's no flash on him. If Svenskeren tries to force something, he might be able to make it work.
Svenskeren's hoping Licorice can bait Ruin in, hoping that CLG top laner is just a little bit too greedy here, but as everything's resetting, I want to go back to the point that you made about the Skarner builds. For anyone who also doesn't know, you only max Q if you're building AD. The ability has no base value whatsoever and only scales off your total AD. Don't max Q if you're building tank. Let's take another look at what happened here and how Ruin lost the 1v1.
Ruin goes in with Q to a big minion wave. He was basically just trying to get it shoving into the turret so he could reset, but completely underestimates the Malphite damage. I just see that as a big misplay on Ruin's side, but Licorice knows exactly how to capitalize and gets that first kill.
Wiggily going in towards this Ocean Drake now to clear that one out. Easy to solo it down. Again, the differences early on don't really mean much of anything in terms of what you're maxing because Skarner's just so adept at soloing this down anyway. Easy to take that one here. As long as Nisqy and Zeyzal don't make their way over to it, should be a pretty easy pickup here for the side of CLG. The PowerOfEvil's rotating down. The Corki is level 6. Svenskeren's trying to interfere. Biofrost has made his way in as well. They're just trying to protect Wiggily long enough to grab the objective. They've got that down. They also got the flash out of Svenskeren, who got just a little bit too close for comfort and had to get out.
Very odd interaction right there, because normally you would expect the team with the Sona Tahm Kench to not be able to be first to rotate to the Drake, but somehow Zeyzal was at about 10% health and couldn't go into River, so Svenskeren actually had to burn his flash to run away. That's one of those things that's very hard to keep track of all the variables, because just looking at the team compositions, Sven would expect to be able to collapse there and kill Wiggily, but because Biofrost and Stixxay roam first, very big 46 CS Tahm Kench walking in there, able to harass him out.
Big fat Tahm Kench all farmed up and ready to go, but Biofrost and Stixxay still have to be very respectful of Zeyzal and Sneaky's lane power. You can see that pizza has some toppings Stixxay doesn't like, probably laden with pineapples or anchovies or something else that's kind of weird. But C9 are going to make sure that he stays uncomfortable here in bottom lane. Wiggily does have level 6 here on the Skarner. Very threatening gank potential. Biofrost and Stixxay both so low, though, even though it's a 3 versus 2, or at least CLG thinks, not really a play they want to make.
Yeah, they definitely need to reset here and get back. Biofrost will actually be able to teleport back in if he doesn't think he'll get dove They're going to stick around with Stixxay. That's an interesting choice because his mana is pretty high. Looking at the CS and the gold, I consider this an early game win for the CLG lane. They're actually up in gold, 4,200 if you sum both of them together versus just the 4,000 from C9. And that's including the plate that C9 was able to get. So a very well done early game, taking into account that they also were able to assist in the Drake take.
CLG, as long as they can scale towards the mid game, the Sona's going to feel fine, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point of picking Sona plus X as a lane. You know you're going to lose the early game. That's not really the entire point. As long as you can get, as you said during Champion Select, to that mid game without dying repeatedly underneath the turret, it doesn't matter that you were stuck there the entire laning.
Yeah, and I am relieved that they are building what I consider the best items for it. We're going to get this gang top lane, though, and then I'll get into it.
Licorice could be in some trouble. Wiggily making his way up there. Licorice with the defensive ultimate getting himself away. Wiggily does not want to flash after him and try to make the pull. Svenskeren is close enough that he could have potentially turned things around or at least made it a 1-for-1, but CLG does not want to overcommit right now.
Yeah, Licorice was smart to ult away. Definitely don't let Wiggily get into flash range. There's a chance that Wiggily could have continued to commit, and maybe they'd get a kill, but that would have been risking the 2v2 turnaround to Svenskeren instead.
There's also an outplay you can make with Malphite that's very hard to do, where you begin your ultimate cast animation the same time Skarner does his, and you will actually make him waste the cooldown because you are completely immune to being disabled. Right. So if you think that you just have literally split-second perfect timing, you can try to bait that, but it's very risky.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that if you practice in solo queue and try and pull it off with Zero King, you might mess up the time.
Exactly.
So exactly.
The entire thing is a trick, but now we're going to be having a 2v2. Suppression down on Svenskeren. He's going to be bursted down. Wiggly's also going to bleed out to the Hemo playing, but now Nisqy's got to get himself away. Biofrost made his way into the mid lane. Here we go. How many licks to the center of a Vladimir? 1, 2, 3, you're out.
That is a rich boy that just came into the mid lane as Tahm Kench. 1-0 now, and again, the Sona Tahm Kench lane able to make pre 10-minute roams. We're gonna watch the first 2v2 though. Svenskeren ahead of the play on Wiggily, but the 2v2 is still pretty strong. You know if a Skarner gets his E, his auto, and his ult off on you, it's gonna be a lot of damage. Just a 1-for-1, both solo laners get it, but it's actually CLG who comes out on top because the Tahm Kench was able to make the roam. CLG now starting to get shoved in that bottom lane.
The last time we saw Biofrost play Tahm Kench, the thing I was most critical of in his play, and one thing that I thought was a big contributing factor to the loss, we didn't see many good Abyssal Voyages. It's such a big part of why you pick the champion that I really wanted to see more out of him globally, across the map, trying to help other lanes, and that's exactly it. Turning what is a 1-for-1 into a 2-for-1, big swing for your team.
And Flowers, when Biofrost plays well, CLG tends to win. So it is exactly as you say about trying to make him in playmaking situations. Now I have a window to talk about support itemization. Because I think a lot of people, I've seen pro LCS players like Cody's son do this wrong.
Okay.
The whole reason you do the Sona Taric is to maximize, well, there's a lot of reasons that I talk about in Champs League. One of the reasons is maximize your gold generation. It's all about buying time until Sona can CS. That means you have to get your support item to its Sightstone upgrade so you're allowed to CS as quickly as possible. Stixxay rushed tier 2 Frostfang as quickly as possible. Now, the third tier of support, Frostfang, doesn't increase the gold generation. However, the third tier of the Targon's line does. So the fact that Biofrost immediately upgraded to tier 3 Eye of the Aspect, as you can see right there, oops, wrong button. As you can see right over here, it means they're maximizing their gold generation as much as possible, which makes up for some of the lost CS and turret plates they give up.
Right, the difference between tier 2 and tier 3 support item for the Relic Shield is an extra charge, meaning that you're able to sacrifice more of those minions more often, while all you get for upgrading to the eye on the AP item is just more health. But Shelly's summon up in the mid lane, that's 2 plates over to the side of CLG. They're up to a 1.3 thousand gold lead. Nisqy continues to eat rocket after rocket from Power of Corki here in the mid lane, and there is no way to stop it.
Yeah, and Ruin able to get some plates in the top lane, even though he died in a misplay 1v1 at the start of the game. The Jayce does continue to gain power up until the point when Malphite can get a lot of armor, and that's 3 plates he's now taken off.
And I feel like if Ruin wants to continue to play the side lanes in this game, we're going to need to see an adaptation from the typical lethality Jayce. We'll need to see the Black Cleaver and Blade of the Ruin King and items that are designed specifically to fight these high armor targets, because that's all Licorice is going for right now, as Wiggily and PowerOfEvil look towards Nisqy, but as soon as they get the ultimate, they realize they're gonna back away. Nice crescendo coming out there from Stixxay. Svenskeren taken low. Biofrost could be in some danger now. He's gonna buy some time. 2 TPs coming in. Cloud9 in danger. PowerOfEvil's able to set it up for Ruin there, and now they're looking to make even more happen. Zeyzal falls next, and Cloud9 went way too far. Licorice falls. It's a double over to Ruin, and CLG get 4 across the map.
And they're likely going to take the majority of this turret and a Mountain Drake with this. They blow this game completely wide open as C9 attempts to punish the Sona Tahm Kench lane, which was running out of control, and they cannot.
CLG running wild with this early game. They got the Rift Herald. They're taking both of the Drakes. They're taking all of the plates. Everything's going right for this squad.
Yeah, credit to CLG in their first Sona Taric game. I know a lot of people out there say, Sona Taric's easy. It's not. I absolutely think it takes a ton of practice to be able to pull it off at a high level like we're seeing in this game from CLG. So watch this. Stixxay and Biofrost. Svenskeren comes in on a control ward. They catch him completely off guard. The Q lands. He flashes. Notice he gets the stun on all 3. Biofrost spits him out. Gives it enough range so Svenskeren can't get the kick onto Stixxay. The stopwatch turns on. The teleports all come in at the right time. And here we go. Now it's time for CLG to take over since they had won the 2v3 in the health trade. When the rest of the team arrived and it turned into a 5v5, CLG gets to clean up.
CLG sitting at a real nice 4,000 gold lead. Now Ruin still farming up however he pleases on the top side. Look at the inventory, going for that Black Cleaver second, recognizing the need to shred this armor on Licorice. And honestly, when you're 4,000 gold down 14 minutes into the game and you're stacking this armor, you gotta be worried about team fights when you're Licorice, because Corki and Sona aren't gonna care.
Yeah, and we're at such a difficult inflection point in the game for C9 right now, because the whole purpose of the Malphite pick was to make a very fast, decisive team fight initiation. But if you're doing that while you're already 5,000 gold down, you only get one chance. Because if you all in and the team has a massive gold lead on it, there's no fallback pattern. You're either in or you're out, and if they're in, they might not even be able to make the fight is what I'm saying, and that could end the game very quickly.
CLG will continue to try to defend here in the bottom side. Svenskeren wants to camp this lane. He wants to try to take this turret down with Sneaky and Zeyzal, make it so they can free themselves up, move around the map a little bit better. Looks like they'll succeed in doing so, but not before CLG takes down the outer turrets in both the other lanes. CLG with a 5 turret plate lead over Cloud9 after those fell about a minute and a half ago, as Ruin is positioned up for a potential flank onto the mid lane if Nisqy overextended, but he won't be doing that here just yet. Bio and Stixxay still pushed up in bottom lane, and Svenskeren still lurking.
Yeah, and they're now able to kind of move some pressure into the top side of the map. All 5 members of CLG looking to maybe even crash a turret dive onto C9 here. Wiggily doesn't have flash, so it'll be a little tricky, and they're on a ward.
They're on a ward, and Cloud9 is on the way. CLG noticed this. They think that this just doesn't feel right, and that would be 100% correct. They back away. That's the kind of throw that would be necessary to put Cloud9 back in an even running in the mid game.
Yeah, and taking a step back, something I didn't realize until now, another reason I like Sona Tahm Kench against C9 is because of the way C9 stylistically plays, and also the way C9 beat CLG last time is they play through their soul lanes. They look to punish through Licorice Svenskeren ganks or Svenskeren Nisqy ganks. Many people, including me, I think, consider Nisqy and Svenskeren as the best 1-2 punch jungle mid so far in the LCS split. What C9 has been bad at is playing through bot lane. And what you were kind of forced to do against a Kleptomancy Sona is play through your own bottom lane to try and shut it down. That's something C9 has particularly weak at. So from a scouting report perspective, I think CLG did a very good job at picking a composition that is likely to not get punished by C9, and it has been successful so far in the first 17 minutes.
I mean, I remember talking behind the scenes to our stats people when a conversation about Sneaky's performance this split, and he's been putting up lower numbers than he has in quite a while so far in Summer Split. Cloud9 is not having a great split for their bottom lane, and I agree, it's absolutely the right call to play around that weakness. Try to go for whatever sort of an angle is going to give you that advantage. Ruin will continue farming up here in the top lane. Has that Black Cleaver done? See how effective that makes him against Licorice. Here comes Malphite, because the backup is on the way. You've got a Scorpion, you've got a Catfish, you got a Hammer. What else do you need? It's a killing spree for Ruin.
Yeah, and now it's just C9 trying to make up for that play top lane. Stixxay would be very vulnerable at the turret here, but they just killed the initiation in the Malphite. That gives them time to come down, and they only lose about half a turret.
Turret not going down yet means no gold into those Cloud9 pockets that are so desperate to close some of this distance with CLG. CLG will clear out those minion waves, continue shoving up here into mid lane. Remember, there's no turret to even pressure. They already took that one down. Ruin's about to take out the tier 2 there on the top side. CLG are without their main initiation mechanism in the Skarner ulti. Stixxay does have Flash Crescendo, though, so if Cloud9 groups up too closely, easy big ulti there.
Absolutely. Ocean Drake coming up, CLG is going to try and go towards. And even though this has been a brilliant early game from CLG, this is, well, here we go. Bye,
Sneaky, see you later.
Well, now that the gold lead has reached 7,000, it transitions perfectly into my next point.
Okay.
C9 came back from a 7,000 gold deficit against TSM just last week, which was the largest comeback of the split. Any other team, I'd say this game is 100% over. Here, I give it a 90.
Well, TSM was also playing a pure poke composition against a pure hard engage composition. And you've got a Sona, which is pretty darn good at team fighting.
True.
So I don't know if I have the same faith for Cloud9 to be able to pull this one off. That is a monstrous looking gold graph, all coated in blue for the side of CLG. Having such an incredible performance this split. Remember, this was a team that for so long just felt like they had lost their luster. To go from one of the two biggest names at the beginning of North American League of Legends, CLG and TSM, the rivalry, that match that everybody looked forward to recently had just declined into nothingness almost.
Absolutely.
And then CLG break a nearly 3-year losing streak. And that is just the beginning as this team starts bouncing back and really competing with the upper echelon of LCS competition. And honestly, for CLG fans, it's amazing. And for LCS fans in general, it's pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, however, they do say to never get excited about CLG and to not give fans
Right, I'm just stating facts, of course.
Great job, just the facts. That's what Flowers is giving right here. Because
objective commentary.
if they close out this game, that'll move to 9-5, with every remaining game on their schedule being easier than the games they had this week, basically. So they would have a real chance of making a run into top 2, but that is getting way ahead of ourselves. Just focus on the game plan they've already executed, the power they currently have in the game, and how do they utilize this double ocean mountain to get vision, take Baron, and close out this game.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Vision, vision, vision. You can see all the wards being placed down as they move up into the top side of the Cloud9 jungle, removing any C9 vision they see along the way. Pressuring onto the tier 2 now. Zeyzal will throw up the Unbreakable just to allow Sneaky and Svenskeren to try to clear that wave out. But CLG will continue pressing the attack. The top lane tier 2 has already been cleared out, so they don't even have to worry about trying to apply too much pressure down there. Ruin setting up shop here in the bottom lane. If they can clear out these remaining tier 2s, the map becomes incredibly dangerous for Cloud9.
Yeah, Cloud9 only has this one remaining ward down here, and maybe you can count this guy up in the top side as far as knowing where people are going for Baron. But at the time, CLG doesn't see the need to go around the Baron area. Particularly having double ocean on Sona is kind of amazing. We'll talk about that later as Biofrost rotates bot.
Biofrost coming down to another lane again with a well-timed Abyssal Voyage. You're not getting a kill, but you're getting something better here in a turret. And Biofrost's Voyages are just on point today.
Yeah. One final point, I don't know why I have so much Sona knowledge. I apologize if people hate Sona. Something great about soloing Sona, as they actually just died.
Here we go. CLG going in. PowerOfEvil going to be kicked away, but there's your initiation. Wiggily is making sure that Biofrost is grabbing himself yet another kill, this time on to Nisqy. The Sivir out of the picture means Cloud9 will have a hard time making the team fight happen. Ruin's coming around from the flank. Cloud9 still sticking around for now. CLG did expend some resources there. No Crescendo, no Skarner ulti. It's pretty hard to re-engage at this point. But considering you've got Sona, considering you've got these heals, it's easy to maintain momentum and take down the tier 2.
Yeah, they probably move towards Baron, you would think, unless they just continue to take down these outer turrets. But now I can make the Sona point. So her ultimate reduces the cooldown of her basic abilities, and that cooldown goes up by rank. So at level 11, her basic abilities have 25% less cooldown. What ends up happening and why Tier is such a good item on support Sona is you can own yourself very quickly because Sona's generally gated by mana cost. Solo lane Sona can build Archangel Staff very quickly, can build Lichbane. In this game can have double Ocean Drake, which for the mana constraint reasons, I think makes Ocean the best Drake for a carry Sona. And as a solo, as a farmed up champion, you're more likely to hit level 16 to get even extreme Earth mode Sona and take over. Here though, it's just understanding that C9 doesn't have everyone here. The Malphite's not there, so the threat of a very hard initiation isn't there. They burst out CP after burning through his spell shield and just play a very smart kite back team. They got their one kill with the ultimate from Skarner. Everyone else just sits in the Sona ores and they win the fight.
And look at the itemization from Biofrost as well. This is not your typical support item, Tahm Kench, that goes for a Locket or a Knight's Vow. Dead Man's Plate, the next item online for him to make sure he's able to maneuver around, chase down targets, as well as save allies that he just needs to get to a little bit quicker. I like this pickup. That's a Chad Tahm Kench. And I'm really impressed with how Biofrost is playing it so far here this game. Cloud9 continue to lose control over this map, though. Everything outside of their base has been crushed, and now we just need to see what it'll take for CLG to go for the Baron.
Yeah, clearing out as much vision as possible in the jungle. You can see they're pinging around the Baron area. It's really about just getting rid of some of these pesky wards that C9 has down. You don't actually need to clear out the ward in the back of the Baron pit because the control ward blacks that vision out. Actually hitting it will temporarily reveal you, so don't hit that ward in particular, and you're all right.
General rule of if you're clearing out wards that are pre-disabled by a control ward, just take the objective instead. You don't need to immediately be cleared away because of what you already described with that giveaway, letting your opponents know, hey, we got to get over there right now. And the nice part is for the side of CLG, one of the strengths of the Sona and Taric, I guess not so much with Tahm Kench, it's just the infinite AoE healing and shielding makes Baron taking really not even a threat at all. You're not going to lose much health, even if you have to tank it for half its health bar and then back away.
And here we go. They're not touching any of the wards. There are no blue trinkets left on C9. They have to run up into melee range. However, they have double smite.
Baron's down to 1,000. It's going to be secured by Biofrost, but now CLG might be in a bit of trouble. Bruin's backing himself away. Licorice still going to be on the chase. Wiggily having to back out now as well. Biofrost likely going to be caught out. Seismic Shard thrown towards them. CLG get Baron, but lose 2.
That was incredibly risky by CLG, but both teams had the potential to double smite, and CLG forced the issue and successfully pulled off. We saw Golden Guardians not get this double smite at multiple points in the last game. Don't believe Spectator always appropriates the smites because I think it is Biofrost who ends up getting this. However, look at that Malphite ult from Licorice. This is the type of fight C9 was hoping to be able to force early and often this game. Malphite ult into Vladimir ult, which is sped into by a Sivir ult. CLG bail because they know that's going to be a lost fight. But they do get the Baron and lose 2 and now have an opportunity to reestablish control.
Cloud9 had to make sure they got something off the back end of that. There's no way you can allow CLG to just take Baron for free when you're already 10,000 gold down. But the problem is, now you're still 10,000 gold down. CLG's still 5 men strong. 3 of those guys have a Baron buff ready to go, and you've got pressure flowing in to the bottom and mid lane. Nisqy loses about 40% HP from a single shock blast coming out of Ruin. He does have 2 lethality items completed. BF Sword in inventory, probably going for a Guardian Angel. And now the pressure is on. 2 minutes of Baron buff for Cloud9 to endure.
Yeah, we'll see how they set this up. The big fear is just that C9 can force a fight. That's really the only option that they have. So you really then have to start paying attention to, are there any flank wards that they could teleport onto? There's something back here maybe Malphite could go for. However, CLG grouped up in mid and just going to try and see safely.
As long as CLG don't clump too hard, they should feel all right going up against the Malphite with the kind of lead they've got right now. Look at the damage PowerOfEvil is able to do to this tier 3 turret with these auto attacks. Licorice just trying to threaten him, saying, hey, I might go after you, but considering it'll only take one more hit, PowerOfEvil doesn't appear to be too intimidated. Tier 3 turret falls in the bottom lane. Nisqy again taking a lot of damage from this poke that comes out from Ruin. CLG's 4-man squad will continue the siege here in mid lane, trying to take down the second inhibitor turret while PowerOfEvil goes for the inhib bot.
Yeah, I think C9 has to go if they want to have an inhibitor up in the next 2 minutes, because they're about to lose 3.
Ruin's in top side, already putting in some work on the turret. Inhib comes next. PowerOfEvil's bottom side. This feels so bad as the defending team. You're being pulled in 3 different directions. The first direction has already been collapsed upon, and now you've got to defend the next 2. Ruin still putting the auto attacks into the second inhibitor. Inhibitor turret number 3 will fall. CLG are going slowly and methodically, but they are going unimpeded. Cloud9 has to make some sort of a defense. Svenskeren goes in. He's not going to find anybody except they grab the explosion onto Stixxay. That's a big pick for the side of Cloud9, but CLG is just destroying the base.
They're trying to win.
The PowerOfEvil do not even care about this team fight. They do not care about what Cloud9 had to say. They care about taking down that Nexus.
Huge win for CLG to bring them up to 9-5 and tie C9 in the standings. And it's big for a multitude of reasons. They pulled out a non-standard bottom lane. Stixxay showing off his Sona. Biofrost picks up his first Tahm Kench win. But more importantly, just the team coordination and the way I think CLG was able to tailor a specific team composition to target C9's weaknesses was beautiful.
Perfectly done to dissect the enemy team, and they also recovered from their mistakes well. We saw Ruin pretty much run it down at level 3.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Still incredibly useful throughout the course of the game. Nearly ended up with 100 CS over his opponent. Applied side lane pressure correctly without ever getting caught, being too far overextended against an opponent that had a big engage mechanism. And man, I said it so many times, I don't care, I'm saying it again. Biofrost's Abyssal Voyages set up so many plays for Counter Logic game.
Yeah, and also, Skarner, man, he had some good engages.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow your Skarner presence was, what, 75% this weekend? Whereas the normal presence of him is like 20. I don't really know how you do it. One thing I do want to point out that because the game ended, I'm not going to get to make it with like the mini-map and the cool telescope.
Right, yeah,
stuff.
we just have to, you just imagine.
C9, even though it would have meant the game, really needed to go earlier in that last fight. Whenever you need to make an engage, if the team actually won 3-1s, you have to immediately go on the 3. You saw it work. They actually were able to kill 2 people, but it was too late and they lost the Nexus. So really, you never see C9 not make that engage, which I think is credit to CLG for making it very difficult for C9 to make it happen.
And CLG's performance today does now tie them up with Cloud9 in the standings, but now we're gonna send things down to Ovely, who's ready for an interview with the victorious jungler.
Thanks, guys. Wiggily, congratulations on that win. And at the end, it looked like Cloud9 was about to turn it around, but you guys made that call to finish off the base, so tell me about that.
Well, they kind of just had like a Bronze Zodia comp where they had Malphite, Vladimir, so their only option was to engage on us mid, and we had double inhibitors, so I'm just like, okay, if they go on us mid, we'll just end. So it's pretty easy, I'd say.
And you're taking down Cloud9, your old team, and I know that's always an exciting match for you. So what did it really mean to you taking down former mentor Svenskeren and your old team?
It always feels good, you know, just to give some bragging rights. I'm friends with all the guys on C9. They're all really nice guys. So, I don't know, it just felt really good to beat them finally, because I feel like I always lose against Svenskeren for whatever reason. So, definitely felt good to finally get the win, and it was pretty convincing too, so.
Convincing win when the standings are still so close. I think now you're tied with maybe second or third along with Cloud9. So, are you feeling the pressure of the playoff standings?
Not really, I don't think. I think our schedule is like really easy moving forward, and yeah, we have all the hard teams out of the way, so I think we have a really easy like schedule, and we're not too worried about it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about next. You guys have a pretty easy strength of schedule moving forward, so are you guys going to try to finish off the rest of the split strong, or maybe use those games to try to experiment going into playoffs?
Yeah, I think everything's about playoffs right now. obviously want to make sure we're secured in playoffs first. I'm not sure if we are or not, but I'd say that it's better to just make sure that we're doing the right things in the games rather than just like, oh, we need to win these games. But obviously we can still get first place, so that's like the main goal above everything. So.
Well, wishing you the best of luck with that goal, and fingers crossed to see where you end up next. Congratulations again on the win. And for more of the game, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Ovely. Not quite Wiggily, but almost locked for playoffs, now moving to 9-5, and importantly, tying Cloud9 for second place, 2 games behind Team Liquid. But again, already at a 9-5 record when the last 3 splits, CLG couldn't mount more than 7 wins. We've talked about it in recent weeks a ton, but we're going to keep pushing it, this idea that CLG is a completely different team this summer.
Are back.
Yeah, and they're doing it with a totally different comp this time around. We've seen a number of interesting comps out of CLG. This is another one. It is somewhat standard in terms of the Sona with some poke champions, but we haven't really seen out of CLG yet. And then for C9,
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it at all.
All right, let's tell me why you like it. Tell me why you like it first.
I'll tell you why I love it. It's a ton of engage and a lot of damage. There's one part I don't like to it. So you have the Sivir to speed everything up, Malphite locks everyone down, Vladimir drops his whole thing. It doesn't have quite as much AoE protection like a Taric version of this would, so I think this does work. Even though the ultimate of Vlad's damage is delayed, it's not like there's a Taric ult coming on down. So I like all that. The Lee Sin is the only part I don't like, but I can see how they have a lot of good matchups and should be able to win with this.
Okay, now why don't you like
I literally dislike everything about this comp. To start, all your lanes pretty much lose. Malphite did get the solo kill on Jayce, but that matchup, he was not able to get plays. He actually fell behind significantly in goal, had no pressure whatsoever in that lane. In the mid lane, Vlad against Corki, that's a terrible matchup as well.
I'll give you that one.
I'll
give you that one.
So you have no pressure there. And then in the bottom lane, Sivir and Braum are not the lanes to punish the Sona and Tahm Kench as we saw. And if that wasn't enough, if the lanes wasn't a problem, Lee Sin is like the hardest to execute jungler. And when you're up against a Tahm Kench, he can devour mid-kick. So even if you pull off an insect, Biofrost can devour it. So it's making it so difficult for you to take this composition. On top of that, you have to be grouped up. So if at any point CLG just decides to split the map up, C9 has to group up because their composition doesn't work individually as we saw at the end of the game. They need to wombo combo, and if they just split up, it goes terribly.
Let's work through this bit by bit. Top lane. Do you concede that?
No. Okay. So you can get pushed in, but if you actually play this matchup well, you can out-harass the Jayce because you will poke him harder, and you have the shield to build up, and you can stack armor versus him.
Which, to a degree, we saw. Solo kill came through, but he didn't go the armor direction.
Right. He actually went Bomby Cinder second, which I don't think is what you should do if you're trying. It's better for wave clear and better for stabilizing the lane, but after the solo kill, you can actually go a more aggressive version of it, which focuses
Glacial Shroud.
Glacial Shroud to get more mana to harass more. You have armor, which is more defensive than the health pool.
Okay.
And then eventually you can turn it into the Sheen, so you can actually all in and keep solo killing him with the extra damage from that. He didn't go that path because there's a lot of magic damage on the side of CLG, but it's not a bad matchup. Right. It's actually a great matchup.
Okay, you told me you didn't love the Lee Sin, which is fine. The alignment there.
Yep.
You can see that Vladimir and Corki,
already 2 out of 3.
Not the greatest of matchups, right? Well, so now we're 2 out of 3, but now let's hop to the bot lane. What's your opinion of Sivir Braum versus Sona and Tahm Kench?
Sneaky and Zeyzal have been underperforming for the most part all split. This is a good matchup. It's not a hard punish like kill lane, but you should be able to push it in, have pressure, and hopefully pull off some dives if you're playing really well.
That concedes your lane when you're up against Sona and Tahm Kench. You have to punish that lane. If you don't get ahead early against that composition, you're going to get snowballed on because it comes to the mid game. Okay, who's the only target you're going on? Malphite's not ulting onto Tahm Kench. You're not going onto Corki because he has Valkyrie. You have to go on Sona, who can get devoured mid-Malphite ultimate. So as long as Biofrost plays it well, the entire engage of Cloud9 does not work.
Right, and I think we'll get into more of the team fighty replays first. The big thing for me this game was Sven was on the Lee Sin. It's a tough game for it, and he got outplayed time and time again. He's the primary engager for C9, and when Svenskeren's having a bad game, which he had, I think the rest of C9 struggles, and CLG played fantastic, too. I don't think we should take anything away. That 3-man crescendo saved this play for them, which allowed them to turn it around and win the bot lane, which is not supposed to happen, in my opinion, with this matchup.
Six Sona ult to turn things around. A whiffed Braum ult that could have killed Tahm Kench because he would have been knocked up and not able to hit that zone.
C9 did play poorly. I think that Licorice underperformed even after the solo kill. That teleport was not good, flashing in for that, Svenskeren. So it's not like they played their composition optimally and maybe it could have have worked, but I just don't think that you need to put yourself in a deficit from the get-go in draft. We've learned from MSI that that doesn't work. You need to actually start getting ahead in draft.
Well, that's where we disagree, because I don't think they got behind in draft, because you could see in later fights, they actually were able to engage quite easily because you have multiple forms. You have Sivir speed up, Lee Sin engage. Once they eat someone for the Lee Sin engage, that's when Malphite goes. You don't start with the Malphite and you get big AoE ult with Vladimir. They played poorly, and CLG played really well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Jad did make the point about how, you know, that final fight, we saw the makings of what C9 was trying to do. They were too late to pull the trigger and get bit on the back end of it. But to your point, Crumbs, I do want to reference my visit to CLG, where I talked directly to the whole squad about how G2 had really forced teams to reshape their thinking about drafting, and that for G2, it seemed the priority was always, or the European teams in general, the priority was always around securing just the best possible matchups, regardless of what champion is in what lane. Just try and get 3 winning matchups by swapping things around as comfortably as you possibly can and win through there. And so that would serve to your point of, hey, it seems like the game right now demands to be played.
I think the theory behind what allows that logic to work is that if you can get significantly ahead early with the plates being involved, the RNG of the dragons, as long as you know how to snowball and close out a game, doesn't matter what picks you have, the gold itself will carry you to continue to snowball the matchup. So as long as you can get past that early game and start getting that gold in your pocket ahead of your opponents, then it doesn't matter if you picked Jayce, Sona, Tahm, Kench, irrelevant as long as you got the gold.
And it was that replay, for example, that we saw in the bot lane, which was a big part in the gold lead that CLG was able to build. Another piece of that, though, is as there are plenty of hero moments, we cannot ignore players who can see the need to carry just to say, I'm helping, presented by State Farm. Now we want to shout out CLG's support Biofrost, who made plays across the map. First with his ult to mid to turn the tides for CLG, and even roaming top to take down Licorice's Malphite. Take a look.
But now Nisqy's got to get himself away. Biofrost made his way into the mid lane. Here we go. How many licks to the center of a Vladimir? 1, 2, 3, you're out! How effective that makes him against Licorice. Here comes Malphite, because the backup is on the way. You've got a Scorpion, you've got a Catfish, you got a Hammer. What else do you need?
That mid lane fight was a 1-for-1, turned into a 2-for-1 because of that ultimate as well. Important to get up top lane.
Too.
Yep, yielding plates as well, which is more to your point of that early game pressure. And then, of course, getting a kill onto the Malphite, who had started things off hot with a solo kill himself.
Yeah, I mean, this was such a big game for Biofrost. The bot lane play we saw with him and Stixxay turning that around got Jayce the double kill to start winning the top lane matchup again. He influences the mid lane matchup. He gets top lane again. He was on fire with his Tahm Kench ults.
Yeah, CLG in general, again, I think we have to talk about the fact that even Wiggily said, first is still an option for them, and that's on their brains.
Ooh,
the idea that they can get it, and their schedule from this point onwards, strength of schedule-wise, is one of the easier ones. And so I'm very excited by the possibility that this team, you know, ends at 11, 12, 13
I'm excited
wins.
that they're just thinking about it, like you said, because that gives you the attitude of making yourself better constantly, as opposed to like, oh, okay, Team Liquid is unreachable. Like, no, we can definitely be the best team in the region.
Well, and just that they believe they deserve to be where they are, right? That they don't think they fluked their way to the position they're in. They can still challenge for first because they deserve to be where they are.
No one should think CLG has fluked their way to this point. They have beaten top teams time and time again using different, unique strategies at multiple instances at different points in the season. So it's not like a hot streak. It's not like they read the meta well once. They are consistently playing well.
Now, how much do you knock C9 for the loss here?
They tried something different. Whether or not Crumbs is right or I'm right, like at the end of the day, they got outplayed. Their draft was interesting, maybe bad, and they can look and decide that. So I think this was a good learning experience for them on how to play and how to draft.
All right, fair enough. Game 3 has Optic trying to take down TSM. We'll see who comes out on top after this.
Speaking of power, Licorice going in. One more hit could be the solo kill. Got a flash forward into the seismic charge. Rushing down on Svenskeren. He's going to be bursted down. Wiggly's also going to bleed out to the Hemo playing. But now Nisqy's got to get himself away.
Carry Malphite.
What's up?
I'm going Malphite. Yeah.
Malphite flash.
Go Malphite.
Malphite no flash. I heal.
Get him,
No flash.
Get him, boys.
He's dead.
Nice. Good shit, boys.
Aaron's down to 1,000. It's going to be secured by Biofrost, but now CLG might be in a bit of trouble.
Go for that.
You can get it.
Go.
Yeah, you guys got it. They have nothing.
Go.
Nice job, guys.
No.
You guys. Good shit, guys.
Woo!
Let's go.
Nice.
A great product can define the present, but it takes the unprecedented to define the future. To go beyond what's next and change the world of gaming. To make history, break ground, and force the universe to take notice. The world's most powerful and most upgradable gaming laptop with Intel Core processors, the Area 51M, defines the future of gaming.